What's
Hello,
going
everyone.
on, everybody? And welcome back to this episode of the Double S NFL podcast. I hope you're enjoying your week so far. I'm Spencer.
I am Sam.
Today we're gonna talk about some topics across the NFL. And I'm really excited to talk about more football, especially as we get into the last month of this NFL season. Without further ado, Sam, what topic do you want to talk about first?
The Cincinnati Bengals.
All right,
Just them in general, how confusing they are.
so I'll go first, and they either blow a team out or get blown out. They're one of the weirdest teams. Like coming into the year, I had them at 5-12 or 6-11, 6-11, but they've been awesome. Like even though he's slowed down a bit, Jamar Chase is still great. Burrow's been pretty good this year. Mixon is great. D's improved a lot. Coaching has been a little better, but they always shit the bed when it's a big AFC game for wild card implications. They could have had a division lead if they won that game against the Chargers. They came all the way back from 24-0, 2-point game,
It was
and then they
24-22, and then the Chargers scored
17 unanswered.
17.
So I don't really trust the Bengals all that much, but I do have them winning their division at 11-6 because there's a lot of talent on that team, and I think they're the best team in that division talent-wise, and they have the easiest schedule left, in my opinion.
I personally have them at 10-7, just barely missing out on a tiebreaker.
Do you think they have the best future out of anyone in that division?
Yes.
Yeah, I do, and I don't think it's even close. Because
the Ravens have an overrated future.
where do you stand on Cleveland's future? I can rank 31 teams futures and rank 31 teams for power rankings, but I can't rank Cleveland because they don't know what they're doing with Baker. Yeah.
I mean, they're good at drafting, especially over the past few years.
Yeah. All right. The next topic we're going to talk about is going to be, what do you want to?
Let's do the TJ versus Miles debate.
So I'm going to pull up some stats. TJ Watt, he was on the COVID list for the Chargers game, but he had 3.5 sacks this past week, 1 forced fumble, and he's had a sack in almost every game. He's a monster. 16 sacks this year, 15 sacks a season ago, 14.5 the year before, 13 the year before that, 7 in his rookie year, 65.5 sacks over 5 seasons in the league, 13 a year. That's unbelievable, and he's on a Hall of Fame pace right now. He's unbelievable. He's a freak. That defense wouldn't be anything close to what it is without him.
The same thing with the Browns and Myles Garrett. The defense would be completely garbage.
Myles Garrett, he has 14 sacks. He's played one more game, but he's been really, really good. I love his pass rush moves. I love TJ's too. He's had double-digit sacks in the last 4 seasons. He's an absolute monster, and I'm gonna look at his pressure rates, but I think those two players, TJ and Myles, are going to be very, very good for many years to come. So QB hurries. Myles Garrett has 14. QB knockdowns, he has 13. 14 sacks, as we said. He brought the blitz on he hasn't brought the blitz on a quarterback yet, it says. But I think QB knockdowns, 13 there. And let's check out the more basic numbers here. But he has 3 QB hits in week 1. He had his week 3 game against the Bears was unbelievable. Wow, do you remember that game?
I do. That was Justin Fields' first start. I think he got sacked 9 times.
9 times. 4.5 of them were Garrett. 4.5. So
if I had about it, Garrett was number 1 overall. They came out in the same year.
Yeah, 2017, both first round. Garrett was deemed this generational guy, and he's lived up to that and more. But TJ Watt,
at the time, people thought that Okay, this is JJ Watt's little brother. They didn't really think of him.
Yeah, they didn't until 2019. Like that's when I really thought of him as this crazy good player. Like the Cowboy, I think it was the Dolphins. They drafted Taco Charlton above him,
I
and
think it
like
was the Cowboys actually.
oh the Cowboy, yeah. Like Solomon Thomas was drafted above him. Let's it also uh num yeah TJ Watt was picked number 30. Oh, Derek Barnett was one of them drafted over him. There were so many players, and they're the top two players from this draft class with ease, bro. I believe. Mahomes is right behind them, but I think they're two top five players in the NFL, and like you could argue any ranking. Who do you have as a better player right now?
I personally have Garrett because he has so much more of an effect on the Browns than because he cares. He's the face of that organization.
Yeah, good point there. I have Miles Garrett too, but if you argued either one, I would not be upset. I just think, as you said, his impact on that team is so valuable, and like without
I
that,
am not discrediting TJ Watt,
either
but
am
their
I.
defense is just better as a unit.
Yeah, because they have Mink already, Joe Hayden when healthy. Um, not Devin Bush, he sucks this year, but Cameron Hayward. Um, Yeah, and like the Browns D, I think it'll be a bottom 7, bottom 9 unit without Miles Garrett.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. So the next topic we're gonna talk about are the current award races. I'll say my top three, and then Sam will go for his. I'm gonna start off with the Coach of the Year award. We didn't talk about this last week, but it's kind of heating up. Number three, I'm gonna go from the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick. He's they're back. They're back. You cannot argue against that. They ran the ball 47 times last night and passed 3 times. I wasn't a huge fan of the game plan, but it worked, and you got to give credit there. He has them at 9-4, winning 7 in a row. 7 in a row with a rookie QB. Unreal. Number two from the Green Bay Packers, I have Matt LaFleur. Without Jair, Zadarius Smith, David Bakhtiari, Rodgers for a game, Adams for a game, even Aaron Jones for a game. They're 9-3. That's insane. And if they win this week, like I think they will, they clinch their division, and they're going to be in the playoff for the third straight year under LaFleur. And I think it is time we start giving him the credit he's been deserving of for 3 years now. And my Coach of the Year favorite right now, coming from the Arizona Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury. People wanted this guy fired. I'd say 95, 98% of Arizona fans and NFL fans knew how bad he was as a coach last season, but he's really turned it around, flipped the script. Kyler's having an MVP year, and that team in general looks insane. They're poised to make a deep playoff run, and Cliff is a big reason for that. Who are your top three?
I'm gonna flip around your number two and number three. I have LaFleur at 3 and Belichick at 2. Mainly because the Packers were expected to be this good. I know they've had a bunch of injury trouble.
Yes, the injuries I factor in a bunch.
They were supposed to be this good, and the Patriots kind of came out of nowhere, especially since they were 2-4 and they've now won 7 straight. And I'm gonna also have the number one spot being Cliff Kingsbury. He's evolved so much as a coach.
It's insane, like how he actually utilizes his players.
Just missing out as I want to do an honorable mention to Brandon Staley with the Los Angeles Chargers. He's been fantastic this year as a coach.
Yeah, one of my honorable mentions, and you'll be surprised by this because like a lot of people have mixed opinions on him, but I have Frank Reich. They started 0-3, 1-4, and like he's made Wentz a lot more comfortable than he was in Philly, and it's really great to see because I've always been a huge fan of him.
I thought you were going to go the Zach Taylor route.
not with the inconsistencies. I think coaching plays a big part in that. All right. Moving on to our next award, we have the Comeback Player of the Year award. Alex Smith locked it up last year. This year, I think it's a two-player race, but I think one of them is the clear favorite. In third place from the LA Chargers, I'm going to go Derwin James. Missed all of last year, most of 2019. That defense missed him a ton. He's flying all over the field, left and right. He's an absolute monster. He can be a ball hawk. He can get to the quarterback even. Best safety in the league by a mile, in my opinion. He's a big part of that defense. My number 2 is Joe Burrow of the Bengals. He's had a couple bad interceptions here and there, but he's a big reason for their success this year, and he's showing why he was the number 1 pick in 2020. And number 1, an MVP candidate, in my opinion, Dak Prescott of the Cowboys. We saw they went 6-10 without him for most of last year, and he's really provided a spark to that team this year. They're sitting at 8-4, and most likely going to make the playoffs this year.
I have those exact same players in the exact same order.
Oh, wow. Nice. All right. The next award we're going to get to is the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. And in third place, coming from the New York Giants, Azeez Ojulari. The Giants' pass rush has been bad this year. And although he's been inconsistent, I still think Ojulari's been quite solid this season. Jalen Phillips just missed a cut, but I think Ojulari's had more production since the first week of the season. He's 6.5 sacks right now, and when he's on, he's on. My number 2 is Patrick Surtain from the Broncos. He had another pick this week. He had 2 picks and a pick 6 the week before. He's been the best player on the Broncos this year, in my opinion, and he's going to be a lockdown corner for years to come. And my number 1 candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year, and if you don't have this, you're straight up an idiot, is Micah Parsons from the Cowboys, the linebacker. He already has 10 sacks on the year. He's just in quarterbacks' faces. He's forcing fumbles. He's making great tackles. He's so smart as a player. He's a great leader too. It's crazy how good he is already.
My number 3 coming from the Denver Broncos is Patrick Surtain, the corner from the Denver Broncos. He's been crushing it this year. And he's really brought a spark to that Denver Broncos defense. And the Broncos are back in playoff contention. They're 6-6 right now.
Yeah, they're right back in it.
And my number 2 is Azeez Ojulari. And my number 1 is Micah Parsons.
All right. Now for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I was thinking about it more, and just like it's more who I think will get the award. Like kind of but I don't think offensive linemen will get the award. So I'm removing Creed from my top 3 for now. At number 3, coming in from the New York Jets, is Elijah Moore. He makes his first appearance this year on the list, and him and Waddle were neck and neck, but I went with Elijah. He's provided a spark to this offense the last 2 weeks. Him and Wilson are establishing a great connection, and it's freaking amazing to see right now. My number 2 is Mac Jones from the New England Patriots. Like him and number 1 are interchangeable, but I think Mac, his rookie season is heavily overrated in my opinion. It's not bad. He's been solid, but he has the easiest job. It's like, as we saw last night, he threw 3 passes and they won the game. Like, he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to be the 5th best in this draft class. That's not a bad thing. I think every quarterback will be pretty good in this class. I think he has the lowest ceiling, and I think he's kind of he's going to stay at this rate for a while. And my number 1 from the Bengals, Ja'Marr Chase. He slowed down the last few weeks, don't get me wrong, but he's still a freak, and the Bengals wouldn't be anywhere where they are without him.
My number 3 coming from the San Francisco 49ers, Elijah Mitchell.
Good pick.
I loved him coming out of college, and he took control, and he's taking control of that 49er backfield.
That's the clear RB1 right now.
Absolutely. And the 49ers are the current seventh seed in the NFC because of not only him, but the offense and defense reviving and starting to get healthy.
Yeah, they're getting a lot better in general.
My number 2 coming from the Cincinnati Bengals is Jamar Chase. I think 1 and 2 are pretty interchangeable. Is Jamar Chase from LSU, and he's had a great year. He's slowed down in recent weeks, which is why he's number 2. If this was week 8 or week 9, he would be number 1. My number 1 from the New England Patriots, Mac Jones.
Yeah.
He did what was he supposed to do this last week?
Throw the ball more, like take risks.
Is it really his choice?
Partially, like you have the quarterback, like if he threw like 15 times, 20 times, I'd be fine with that. Even like 12 times, like 3 times, that's like, come on.
That's on the code. That's more on the coaching staff and Belichick and Josh McDaniels than him.
Fair.
So he's still my number 1. He did well for the role he was supposed to do. And I think he'll have a bounce back game this week against.
They have a bye.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. My number 3 for defensive player of the year from the Cleveland Browns is Myles Garrett. He's like, I would have him even higher. He's been insane. Don't get me wrong, but it's based off this year only, and his stats are kind of inflated from that. They're still great stats, but like kind of from the Browns game, from the Bears Browns game, they're inflated. He had 4.5 sacks there, but he's still like one of the top 5 players in the NFL right now. The Browns defense, as I said before, will be nowhere without him. And second, a little bit bold here. I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys as a rookie. Yes, as a rookie. I have him. He's a lock for defensive rookie of the year, and I think it's time we start putting his name in the defensive player of the year conversation. For the reasons I stated before, as a rookie, he's transformed this defense from not a top 30 defense to a top 18 defense, in my opinion. And number 1, not even close at this point, in my opinion, is TJ Watt. Not much to be said here. He's a freak.
My number 3 coming from the New England Patriots is Matthew Judon.
Matt Judon.
He's been killing it this year. He has 12.5 sacks, 49 tackles as a linebacker. He's on his way to breaking the single season record for the Patriots sack record.
Mm-hmm.
And that he's helped turn that defense back into what it was during the dynasty years. My number 2 coming from the Cleveland Browns is Myles Garrett. As we went over in our TJ versus Myles debate, he has unquestionable value, and he's been crushing it this year in Cleveland. But I think that TJ Watt's had the better year between the two. So that's why I have him at 1 and Garrett at 2.
Garrett at 2, yeah. Yeah, they're interchangeable for sure. Who are your top 3 offensive player of the year candidates right now?
My top 3 offensive player of the year candidates. Note that these are not really that quarterback.
Yeah, they're not quarterback for me either. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Cooper Kupp from the LA Rams. And he's been crushing it this year. He's fallen off in recent weeks, but I still think he has.
He had like 100 yards this week, 120, I think. He was insane this week again. Like,
yeah. But over the last couple of weeks, especially the 49ers game and
49ers game, he was kind of he was not great. but he was great this past week.
Yes. My number 2 is coming from the Indianapolis Colts.
JT.
JT 28. He's been fantastic. He's been the best running back in the league this year. Albeit King Henry is still out.
Still, he's like on his efficiency stats, like 5.6 yards per attempt.
Yeah, I don't know how you stop him if you're opposing defenses.
Yes. Every game, I feel like he gets better.
My number 1, the quarterback from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady.
Who do you have as your honorable mention? Debo?
My honorable mention's Kyler. Because he played a great game this week. And he's getting back in the groove, and the Cardinals are the best team in the league.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, my number 3 coming from the San Francisco 49ers is Deebo Samuel. He's been an absolute monster this season. 1,000 receiving yards. That's almost half of his career receiving yards. 18 yards per reception. 176 fantasy points on the year, and his catch percentage is solid too, 60.9. Rushing too. He has 388 yards rushing, so he's kind of like a Shohei Ohtani player in football. Not comparing the two, but he's like he can be used in multiple ways. He's a key part of that offense, and he's going to be a huge part of why Trey Lance will succeed, in my opinion. Next up at number 2, coming from the LA Rams, I have Cooper Kupp. Unquestionably one of the greatest seasons in recent memory for a receiver so far. 1,300 yards. Stafford, he's not one because I think Stafford's a key reason for his production, as he wasn't as successful with Goff last year, but that doesn't take away anything from how good he's been. And my number 1 and leader right now, my opinion, is Jonathan Taylor, for obvious reasons. The Colts running attack is the best in football, and he is unbelievable. He's gonna and the Colts, they kind of and they don't overwork him too, in my opinion. Like tight ends overwork Henry, so he's gonna be great for years to come. And the final award we're going to talk about is the MVP, and coming in at my number 3 spot is Tom Brady from the Buccaneers. Listen, I get he's 44, but what he's doing, it's astonishing to see. 34 touchdowns, 10 picks, 3 in my opinion, he has 3 more years left in the league before he should call it quits. But it's just crazy to see. Like Brady, he's accurate. He makes the right decisions. Like he's best IQ in football still. Like he's not aging at all, it feels like. My number 2, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. He would be the unquestionable number 1, but his injuries are holding him back. 19 touchdowns, 7 picks on the year. Been much more accurate than last year as well. And my number 1, the Jeopardy host, Aaron Rodgers himself. Other than the Week 1 disaster in Jacksonville against the Saints, he's been really, really good this year. And he's shown why he wants to win a Super Bowl, like why he's showing the fans that he belongs there, and he's going to make one last run there.
My number 3 is Kyler Murray. My number 2 is Aaron Rodgers, and my number 1 is Tom Brady.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our next topic, we have the NFC playoff race. And Sam, why don't you get started with how you think it's going to unfold?
I think that Dallas sends up a wild card. And
that's a hot take. Like I Washington's been great, but like that's kind of a little too far in my opinion.
I don't think so. I feel like Dallas just sputtered in a lot of its games, especially against Denver and Kansas City. And while I think that the Rams are easily the 5 seed. I think Dallas will take the 6th seed and tying with Washington, and Washington getting that tiebreaker. And I think San Francisco will get that set. Will get the 7th seed in the NFC at 8 and 9.
8 and 9. All right, here's how I have it playing out. The 7th seed, clutching up for the last few weeks, going 3 and 1 in their last 4 games is Philly, 9 and 8. 6th seed, I have Washington at 9 and 8 as well. Number 5, I have the Rams. I think they're on the right track once again. Stafford, he had a great game last week. I think he continues it for the last 5 games of the year. 4th seed is Dallas, but they're in jeopardy of losing that spot. 3rd seed, Arizona, 13 and 4. Dallas at 10 and 7, by the way, and Green Bay at 2, and Tampa Bay at 14 wins, and the top seed in the NFC and the best record in the NFL. All right, what's the next topic we're going to discuss? But before we head out,
AFC prediction. AFC.
AFC. Why don't you go first, Sam? Who are your 7 teams?
My 7 teams are at number 7 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chargers overtake them for the division. That plain and simple. Nothing against
why do
how
you think that? Just wondering.
Huh?
Schedule.
schedule.
Why do you schedule?
And I think the Chargers have a lot of momentum.
They always seem to have momentum one week and then crap their pants the next week. Like I never get it with them.
I think the Chargers will piece it together.
Who do you have at 6?
My number 6 seed is the Indianapolis Colts. JT, the revival of Carson Wentz. The planets are all lining up for the Colts to get into the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game or 2.
I could see them making a run if they get there, for sure.
My number 5 seed coming from the AFC East, the New England Patriots. I don't think they take the division. I think they lose 2 more games, and they end up at 11 and 6, losing out on a tiebreaker to Buffalo, which is my number 4 seed. My number 3 seed is the Tennessee Titans. My number 2 seed is the Baltimore Ravens. And my number 1 seed is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Interesting. I disagree with the Chargers being 1, and you'll see where I have them. All right.
I do have the Bengals and Browns just missing out at 10 and 7.
Just Bengals and Browns, and then who do you have after that?
I have the Miami Dolphins at 9 and 8.
9 and 8. And then after that, like where do you have Denver, the Raiders?
I have Denver at 7 and 10, and I have the Raiders at 8 and 9.
Do you have any team in the AFC at 6 wins?
No.
5 wins?
The Jets.
Jets, yeah, same. All right. How I had it ending up is I have the 7 seed at 9 and 8, just sneaking in. It's the Miami Dolphins. Like they were 1 and 7, and they'll be the first team in NFL history to be under 6 games under 500 in a season to make the playoffs. 6th seed for me is Buffalo. I think they finished 10 and 7, but I wouldn't be shocked if they finish 8 and 9 or 9 and 8 because they've been really, really, really inconsistent and not great recently. 5 for me. I'm gonna go with the Indianapolis Colts. As you said, JT, the revival of Wentz, great coaching and defense in recent weeks has them here, and I think they could be a Super Bowl team. Number 4 for me, Kansas City. Number 3 is Cincinnati. Number 2 is New England, and number 1 is Tennessee Titans. Just missing out, I have the Chargers. I have the Browns, and I have the Ravens.
How do you have the Ravens missing out?
Their schedule is absolutely brutal down the stretch. I have them finishing at 9 and 8.
Well, the 1 and 7 to make the playoffs hasn't happened before. A couple 1 and 5 that teams that started 1 and 5 have made the playoffs.
Yeah, like the Chiefs a few years ago, the Colts a few years ago too.
Not to mention teams like the 2010 Seahawks who went 7-9 and made the playoffs.
2020 football team.
The 2020 football team. There were many 8-8 teams make the playoffs.
2020 Bears did.
2020 Bears did. The 2006 Giants did.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to say, Sam?
No, I think we covered everything we wanted to.
Yeah. All right. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Double S NFL podcast. We're signing off for now, and we will see you tomorrow for game picks.